Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Smells Like. I'm Josh. I am excited to launch this new YouTube channel. This is my first time doing something like this. I am a fragrance enthusiast. I love all things fragrance and have really been into this hobby for about 3 years now. I love the fragrance community, especially the online YouTube community, and I love watching YouTube reviews and pretty much anything where somebody is talking about fragrances. So I thought it would be fun to start my own channel. I thought it would be fun for this first video to start at the beginning of my fragrance journey and talk about the fragrances that started it all for me. The founding father fragrances, if you will. The fragrances that laid the foundation for me to get into this hobby today and be such a fragrance fanatic. These are the fragrances that I first remember having strong memories tied to. These are the first fragrances that I fell in love with. Really the fragrances that laid the foundation for today, where I am basically obsessed with fragrances and love this hobby. I get so much enjoyment out of it. The first fragrance was the first fragrance that I ever owned as a kid. And the reason that I got this fragrance was because my favorite rapper at the time talked about it in one of his songs. And the fragrance is Cool Water. Some of you may know what I'm talking about. Snoop Doggy Dogg had a song where he talked about wearing Cool Water cologne, and I was too young to wear Cool Water and too young to be listening to Snoop Doggy Dogg probably, but I did both. And if you can see by my gray hair, you know, I had the tape. I had Snoop Doggy Dogg on tape. Okay, I was rocking cassettes. All right, but this was the first fragrance that I ever owned. I thought it smelled so cool. Just the name, Cool Water. This was the epitome of cool. I wore it to any school events. I wore it to school. I even got in trouble one day for wearing too much, and my teacher made me go to the bathroom and wash my face and my neck where I had put too much Cool Water on. And this stuff stands up even today. It just smells fresh and cool. It's one of the first aquatic fragrances that started the whole aquatic genre. This came out in the 80s and was super popular when I was a kid, and I have a lot of great memories. Every time I smell this, I get so nostalgic. It just has this familiar aroma to it. It reminds me of my first school dance. It reminds me of riding my bike around the neighborhood with my friends. And this just smells like my childhood. The next fragrance was actually a fragrance that I didn't wear necessarily, but that I experienced so much that to this day when I smell this, I am catapulted back to this time in my life. And that fragrance is CK1. I've just got this little miniature, basically just that kind of as a reference. But every time I smell this, this smells like the 90s. This smells like MTV. This smells like going to the mall. This smells like the arcade. This smells like my first girlfriend. This smells like my first kiss. Yeah. My first kiss, she was wearing CK1 and she wore a lot of it. And every time I smell this, I am instantly reminded, one, of her, and of that first nervous, totally unromantic, weird first kiss. And I remember we both had braces, and the main thing I was scared of was everybody said if you kissed someone and you both had braces that you would get stuck, and then you would have to, tell your mom and have your mom take you to the dentist to get unstuck. And I was so scared that we were gonna get our braces stuck together. But she rocked CK1, and this smells like the 90s. There's really no better way to describe this than that. One of the first unisex or gender-free scents, and it definitely pulls that off. But yeah, for me, this smells like my first super awkward, super nervous kiss. So the next fragrance was the first fragrance that I really took ownership of and wore a lot and really enjoyed wearing and wore every day really for a long time. Probably my freshman year of high school, yeah, maybe into my sophomore year I would have worn this. And the reason that I wore this was because my girlfriend at the time loved this scent. She was totally obsessed with it to the point that when we were going out, she bought me a bottle of it, and anytime I wore it, she would just go crazy for how good I smelled, and so of course I would shower in it before I saw her. That fragrance is Tommy, or Tommy Boy as we called it when I was little. Tommy smells like the all-American kid. It smells like the all-American high schooler to me. This just smells like high school to me. It smells like the halls of my high school. It smells like my first dates. It smells like the little moped that I putted around on before I got my license. Buzzing around town to go see my friends or meet my girlfriend. This smells like going to pizza places and school dances. It smells like the movies, going to the movies. Every time I smell this, I think of those early teenage years. And it really just takes me back to that time. So I'll always enjoy smelling Tommy by Tommy Hilfiger. Okay, the next fragrance is a heavy hitter. I was getting older. This is the first fragrance that really was a signature fragrance that took me from a teenager to an adult and on into my 20s. I wore this fragrance every day for years and years. And actually, the first time I smelled this fragrance was on a school trip to Boston, where some friends and I went into the Armani boutique, because we had never seen anything like that, coming from a small town in Indiana. And as we were perusing, you know, the $90 t-shirts or the $1,000 shoes, they had a tester sitting on the counter of their latest release at the time. And I was able to spray some on and instantly fell in love with it. It was the best thing I ever smelled in my life. And that fragrance is Acqua di Gio. This was the first fragrance that I was like obsessed with. I loved this fragrance. This smelled like class. It smelled sophisticated. It smelled cool. It smelled sexy. And the first time I sprayed this on, I was wearing a heavy wool coat with a collar, and I sprayed, you know, around my neck a couple of times and got it all over the collar of my coat. And literally for weeks after, I would bury my nose in the collar of my coat and still get strong whiffs of Acqua di Gio. And that was how I fell in love with it, is just smelling it on my coat for the couple weeks after I had sprayed this on that school trip. So the next Christmas, I asked for this for Christmas and got a bottle. And I got a bottle of Acqua di Gio for Christmas every year from the time I was 17, I think, probably until I was like 25. So this takes a huge amount of my memories, and this smells like college to me. This smells like striking out on my own for the first time. This smells like getting my first apartment by myself. It just smells like my young, late teen and early 20s. Unfortunately today, this is sort of just a shadow of what it once was. It doesn't even really smell to me like the same fragrance. It's been watered down and reformulated so much, but we're not focused on reformulations in this video. It's all about the memories, and for me, I just still have great memories with Acqua di Gio. So the last fragrance that I want to talk about for my fragrances that started it all is probably the most important. This is the fragrance that catapulted me into this fragrance hobby and what would become really an obsession with perfumery and just smelling all that I could and learning as much as I could and being a part of this community, making some great friends, and really just loving this hobby and enjoying perfumery and fragrances so much. So the first time I smelled this, I hadn't worn fragrance for a number of years actually. It was about 3 years ago, and I hadn't worn fragrance for years, and I decided I'd like to get a cologne that I could start wearing. So I went to the department stores and I tried all the stuff that they had out, and I was really unfamiliar with most of it. You know, I tried all the designer fragrances that were popular and that were out, and the sales associate had me smell, she said, we have a new fragrance I'd like you to try. And she had me smell it, and I was blown away. I mean, I had never smelled something as good as this fragrance the first time that I smelled it. And that fragrance, Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum. This fragrance, particularly the Eau de Parfum, was a game changer for me. I smelled the Eau de Toilette first, and then the sales associate said, well, here's the new version, the Eau de Parfum. It was a little bit stronger. It smelled a little bit deeper. To me, it smelled more expensive, strangely. And this just had something that I had never experienced before. It had such a high class, sparkling, beautiful smell. It smelled exactly how I wanted to smell. And so I picked up a bottle right there and then. Bleu de Chanel was the fragrance that started it all. I went home and actually looked up a YouTube review about it because I was curious to learn more, and that was when I found different videos about fragrances, and I think I saw a list that this was on and all the fragrances that were also on that list, and I thought, oh, I've got to try these others. And that's where it all started for me, was Bleu de Chanel and getting on YouTube and seeing all the YouTube reviews about all these different fragrances and being like, oh man, I've got to try these other ones too. This is great. And so this started this hobby that I've been obsessed with basically for the past 3 years, and I don't see any signs of stopping. So that does it for my first video at Smells Like. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can click the like button showing that you liked it, and if you didn't, you can click that you didn't. I'm just doing this for fun, and if you had fun and you want to do this again sometime, maybe hit the subscribe button, and I'll be coming out with fragrance reviews, talky videos like this one where I talk about scent memories and stuff like that, maybe some vlogs. I don't know what all we'll get into, but it should be a fun ride. So thank you for watching. I would love to know what the fragrances are that started it all for you. So down in the comments, let me know, what are the fragrances that really got you into fragrances in the first place, you know, from the earliest memories that you have, the first fragrance you ever got, up to the one that really got you into this hobby and got you loving the hobby of perfumery. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. This is Smells Like. I'm Josh. See you next time. Bye.